Quick start, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure having you again for another week or another edition of Viewpoint on DBS television. It is the start of the week. Hope that the weekend was restful and that you are back again to be informed and educated as well as sensitized about issues happening in and out of Cameroon as a whole. Today we are going to be talking about the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon and trying to find out if schools are respecting the various barrier measures put in place, given that last week a report came out from the Ministry of Public Health saying that Cameroon might likely re-enter into a second wave of infection because about 600 cases have been recorded. And to discuss about this, we are having with us here a teacher in the studio, Asabo Rachel, trying to find out if schools are actually respecting these barrier measures. Good evening to you, Rachel.
Good evening, Madam Vanessa.
It's a pleasure having you today.
I'm glad I'm here today. Thank you for inviting me on Viewpoint once again.
Once again, I remember we lastly had you. Mange Venashus, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to those watching us from Kumbu, those watching us from Jakiri, and those watching us generally. You know, TBS is wide.
So how was the weekend observed?
It was good. It was relaxing. We thank God we are up again.
We thank God we are up again. Viewpoint is a debate program divided into two parts. That it has to do with the questions and answers, and the second part has to do with the debate. Let us have part one. Have schools succeeded in respecting COVID-19 barrier measures as was prescribed by the government? Rachel, as a teacher.
Yes.
Yes. Mange Benashus?
No.
Your observation?
No.
No. And does this have any consequences on the staff, the students, and the pupils? Rachel?
No.
No. Benashus?
Yes, Vanessa, it does.
Yes, it does. Coming up next, let us have the debate. You are just tuning in, you're watching Viewpoint on DBS television, brought to you from Monday to Friday at 6:30 p.m. Have schools succeeded in respecting COVID-19 barrier measures as was prescribed by the government? Rachel, you think that yes, schools have succeeded? Talking about these measures, it has to do with the two-shift system being put in place. First of all, it has to do with having 50 students per class. It has to do with the washing of hands, the compulsory wearing of face masks of every student and teacher or anybody getting into the school. And you think that schools have been able to respect all this?
Yes, as I said in the first part of this edition, schools have succeeded, even though not 100%, but 90%. Yeah, before I go in to talk about the COVID-19, I would like our televiewer out there to know that it is a reality. And it all started 7 months back, getting to 8 months in China, and later spread to the world at large. And it has really been something that schools, educational sectors have put so much in place. Whereas I'll be focusing on my own section.
All right.
That is the primary. And most especially my school. That is the reason why I said yes. Because I'm living in it, I'm seeing it, I'm seeing how we are tackling it. As you rightly said, from the Minister of Education, they said we should adopt the two system. Provided the children are more than 50 per class. But with us, we are not more than 50. Right from the registration, we put some policies because we have barriers measures before reopening, school resumption, and barriers measure after school resumption. So what we put in place are these. We had buckets attached with the head tabs where children can wash their hands before they enter. We had thermophiles. We do take the temperature of the children and even the visitors entering the school campus. And before the children went into into the classroom or enter the school gates, we had to call these people working with the hygiene and sanitation department, who came in and disinfected all the entire school, the toilets, the classes,
and the offices.
The offices everywhere,
right.
everywhere.
This is yeah, you're talking from a particular case, but from your observation, probably was have gone to other schools. Do you actually think that a majority are respecting all these measures?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. As I said, I'll be focusing on my own school, because that is where I am every day. Right. I'm not an inspector. I think an inspector or a regional delegate from the educational milieu can better analyze it or give you a positive answer. All
right, but also we are always having 6 eyes to discover if schools are respecting this or not. Mangavena shows, on your part, you think that schools are not respecting it, these measures being prescribed by the government?
Yes, Vanessa, when you are citing these measures, we are talking about washing of hands, we're talking about wearing of face mask, we're talking of social distancing. These are the 3 M's. Health tips that World Health Organization gave to spread, to stem the spread of this COVID-19. But when we look at the situation in our schools, I tend to ask myself if we really are understanding the impact, the implication of the, I don't want to call it laxity, but the low level of execution or respecting these safety protocols. I'll just take about this social distancing policy. The social distancing policy is not just simply preaching or doctrines that we should propagate, but it is the reality on the ground. I had the opportunity to, like the guest is saying, in the primary sector, I was asking myself, I take for example the nursery school, the nursery sector, or the nursery schools, how you would tell a child that don't come closer to your classmate. I don't know if that child understands what that means. How you would tell a child that don't touch your classmate. How that child understand what that means. And these are children that they like to cling on their teachers. They like to play about. That is the nursery section. But then, even in primary school, even in secondary schools, from 1 and 2, the way you see them playing, you tend to ask whether we are respecting this, because I have the impression that the minister and the government officials, the Minister of Public Health, Minister of Secondary Education, Basic Education, they are in Yaoundé, in the offices. They are not in the class. They are not in the schools. Because in the schools, I think that when you look at the way things are done, like she's saying, actually, most schools started disinfecting the school. But the policy should be, we should disinfect these schools every day, on a daily basis, because you don't know where the children are coming from. Children come from all, from diverse neighborhoods. You can disinfect it today, and the child goes to the quarter and brings COVID-19 tomorrow. What happened? The idea is, once they come to school, before they leave, you disinfect, assuming that in case any of these children that came with a virus in school, we would have disinfected the virus. It will not spread to others. Actually, they are using thermoflash cameras, like she's saying. They are disinfecting. They are using, they have hand washing facilities.
But how many schools?
That is where I am going to. We are talking about primary schools here. We are talking about from 1 and from 2, even in high school. Are they conscious that they have to? Because it is not you come in the morning and wash your hands and that is all. They tell us that the rule is regular washing of hands, which means from time to time, maybe you touch the bench, it demands that after about 1 hour, 2 hours, you should wash your hands. How many of them do it? Water is a precious liquid in Douala, because not everybody has access to potable water. Now, if it is a procedure that we adults in the secular life, out of school context, we are not able to succeed in doing it, I don't know how the school children are surviving. Wearing a face mask, how many of them can succeed to remain with a face mask throughout the day? Because I, for one, most of the time, I don't find myself succeeding. I don't know how my daughter will be able to succeed in doing it. So that's why I say that I don't know how they do succeed within the school milieu to contain, to talk about that. When schools were resuming, the government spoke of the number 50 as a limit per class. It's true, there are a good number of schools have not reached that number 50. So they are not practicing the double shift system, I think so. Yeah. Yes. Now, if they are not practicing the double shift system, it means the infrastructure in the class, the benches were supposed to be retouched in such a way that benches that used to accommodate or that used to take 3 children, because there are some schools that have 3 children per bench, 4 even. I don't know whether...
it's true. We have the 4-seat benches and 3-seat and the 2-seat.
Correct. So if we have to respect social distances, we say we should be at least a meter away from each person, which means the benches now should be from 2 meters on or upward. And in this 2-meter bench, only 2 students are supposed to sit on it. And I don't know if
and it's supposed to be respected 2 meters,
especially in the lay private, in the lay private sector. I don't know whether they can accept to do that, because it means on a 2-meter bench that would have taken 4 to 5 children, now only 2 children will sit on it. 2 people will sit on it, which is practically not possible, because we've not seen any change in infrastructure in most of these schools. Yes, classes have not been increased, no change in infrastructure. So I think that respecting it is still another thing that we still have to start, trying to practice it. It is not, to talk about it is easy, yes, but putting it into practice, it is something that even adults cannot do it. Because if they say 1 meter away from each other, I don't know whether we will still move again in Douala here. I don't know whether markets will still hold. If those places cannot contain them, if we cannot succeed in respecting them in the market, what about churches? If we cannot succeed in respecting them in these areas.
Mr. Mange Venatius, we are talking here about the school.
Yes.
We are talking about the school. I want to go back to my school as following what you just said.
Yes.
Don't say I cut you.
No, you're free.
It's just that you said some things that I have to give answers to.
Exactly.
You were talking about the 1 meter distance. Let me take it this way. The children, especially in the nursery school, they look at their teachers like their role model. Whatsoever thing the teacher says in class, they will capture it and it will remain in them. So when this pandemic came out, when we had the outbreak, we had to talk to them. In the month of March, before they went home for the break, they knew already what the coronavirus was. They knew. So they knew the barriers measures. We talked to them, we used pictures, colorful, not black and white. Children usually learn through the use of images, beautiful images. So they already know what the coronavirus is all about. They can give you the barriers measures. We should not play with our friends. We should maintain the 1 meter distance. We should put on our face masks. We should wash our hands regularly. In my school, we have a regular flow of water.
All right.
Yes.
But then, are you in a way trying to say that it's easy for the children or the younger ones to respect these measures than the adult ones, those in the secondary and higher education? Is it easy for them to respect it rather than these other students?
Thank you for that question. Yes, in the nutshell, that's what I'm trying to say, because they spend most of their time with their teachers and they listen to them.
All right. Mange Venatius, you round up with your first point.
Yes, so it's true. When we talk of the nursery sector or section, it is a bit practicable. They can manage, because they will talk to them and they will understand. But then I still find it difficult when you say they should not sit closer to each other, they should respect the 1 meter distance. I don't know how large the nursery class should be, because they will understand. Well, although some people tell us that children are still, they are not as susceptible to the virus as we adults are. If that is the case, then that is a blessing, because in that sector it will be a catastrophic situation. But then I still think that in primary schools, in schools generally speaking, because let's not even go to the government schools, because government schools is completely full ball game. They started talking of disinfecting most of these schools. Are they being disinfected on a regular basis? It is not disinfecting, like I said, on the first day and then we have done it. We still see buckets without water. Buckets are standing there without water. How do you expect people to wash?
I think that should be in schools, as you said. There is scarcity of water.
Of course, because water is not that available here in Douala. Although we live in water is not that available here in Douala. That's why in some schools you don't even have water to drink, that you have water to wash your hands. All
right, thank you very much, Venatius and Rachel. In the second question, does this have any consequences on the staff, students, or pupils? Rachel, you think that it doesn't have any? That is in your school, that is the case of your school, but what more of these schools that do not respect these barrier measures?
Yes, apart from my school, really it will have an effect on the pupils and students if at all they don't respect the barriers measures.
All right.
Yeah. So because when they don't respect the barriers measures, they are open to the virus. Subsequently, if a student or a pupil or a kid gets in contact with the virus, the school is going to lose that child or pupil.
All right. Open to the virus.
And it will make some of us teachers to lose our jobs.
All right, thank you. Okay, but it's very important that the students or the teachers, they protect themselves in order to protect these people, because everything has to start from the school to the teachers and to the students. Mangavina, your point of view.
Yes, I think that
students and pupils will be affected.
There is an implication, because if there is a sector in this country or that has been affected by this pandemic, besides the economy, it is the educational sector. Some Western countries are now going back to a second lockdown, and they will not lock, they will not ask people to go in for lockdown, and schools will be going on. The minister has been indicating that there are possible that Cameroon has started registering increased cases of coronavirus.
But for instance, we have France. They've gone into a second lockdown, but schools are going on.
That's why I said when you look at it, it looks hypocritical, in the sense that if you lock the market, if you lock churches, if you lock circulation in street and allow children to go to school, you are simply robbing Peter to pay Paul. Because these children will go out into the schools. How would they fly to their schools? They will still, even if it means moving in their cars, they will get in schools. Other children are coming from everywhere. There's a possibility of coming back home with the virus. And the parents you are, I don't want to use the word pretending. The parents you are struggling to protect at home, to go out, would at the end get the infection, because the child is coming back. So if we are locking down the country because there is coronavirus, everything has to go off. We lock down everything. That's why I was saying that if you look at it, one of the sectors that was also touched besides the economy was the educational sector. Because from March, when we discovered the case in Cameroon around the 5th of March, schools were closed down, because these are potential breeding grounds. Remember, the virus multiply as fast as possible. So where people gather, like schools, that's where the virus, would multiply. So to handle it, we close schools. The non-respect of these barrier measures, the consequences is that the education of these children is at risk. Because once we start, the numbers start. Cameroon was closed when we had 5 cases.
5 cases.
Education we had to stop. Now we are talking about more than 600 cases that are already
recorded new cases.
Yes, which means we are already 600 times the situation that was in March. Which means as of now, schools would have closed 600 times. Schools would have closed, because if we closed schools at 5 cases, now we are at 600. If it continue, we will likely go back again to another lockdown. So the academic year is at risk. She was talking about, their source of livelihood. It is also at risk, because teachers were complaining that, especially those of the lay private sector, that once there was lockdown, some of them in some schools were not paid, and it is a problem.
It's true.
It's a problem for them. These teachers have families. They have families. We don't talk about school fees. We talk just to feed their families. If they don't have salaries, they won't be able to feed their families. It will affect them too. The health of these teachers, their health is at risk. Because in as much as the children are also coming from out there, they are likely going to bring the virus. And teachers, except that they will adopt new approach in teaching, they are supposed to mingle with the children as they are teaching, moving around. They are obliged just to remain at the board, because you don't want to get into them. You are more exposed than perhaps me and you. I can decide to keep a distance, but the teacher, you are obliged to receive that student, whether the child is coming from an COVID-19 infested area or not. The child will come to your class, and you have to work with the child. So the health of the teacher is at risk. Then I was looking at it also as the society. Those who may have the virus in one neighborhood, they run the risk of infecting another neighborhood, because as they will bring it in school, children will take it and it will go to other neighborhoods. It will spread as faster than it would have been if there were no schools. So I would rather think that if we are talking about respecting these barrier measures, the consequences are so enormous. They are so enormous, because if they go to the quarter, that is how it will increase. And if we eventually will be experiencing what France is experiencing, we will eventually be experiencing
almost entire of Europe.
Of course, what Europe is experiencing. So I think that instead of preaching, I still take the government to task. Instead of preaching, the government should, Vanessa, when it comes to taxes, the government does not sit in the office and ask for business people to pay their taxes. They come down to the field where they go there, and if you don't pay, they seal. If it is not respected, go there and seal it, because the consequences will not only end. Remember, we are talking about education. Yes, it is somebody's business. It is somebody's business, but then the notion of the common good should override an individual or an individual interest. If the common good here is the health of Cameroonians, if the common good is the economy of Cameroon, if the common good is the education, the health of teachers, the livelihood of these teachers, then government has to do something. Do something means we have to be, proactive rather than being reactive. Because in most cases, as we have always been reactive, if we have to be reactive in this other case, then let's just be prepared to go back to a second lockdown. Because thank God the first one was where education had gone right up to March. This is just the beginning of the academic year, and if things remain the way they are, I would not want to be called the prophet of doom. That I prophesized.
Thank you very much, Mange Venatius. Last week we were talking of about 600 cases, and this week who knows how far it has gone. But Rachel, I would like to know from you, what can be done to actually prevent a second resurgence of this virus in Cameroon, and probably a second lockdown?
As Mr. Venatius just said, I will take his point. We just need to call our government to order, so that they should go down into the schools and really check if schools are really respecting the barriers measures to prevent this coronavirus spread, because it is a virus. It is easily transmittable. So if schools are not respecting the barriers measures, then we should be prepared to go for a second lockdown.
All right.
Yeah, because it is a secular something. It is interwoven. If a child is having the virus and the child comes to school, for schools that are not respecting the barriers, that is how you spray. It will go to the teachers. The teachers will go back home. Obviously, they will be locked down. The teachers will go down unemployed. So many things. As I said, it's interwoven. It's a chain.
And probably, I think that is also the responsibility of schools to make sure that they have provided all the necessary kit for these barrier measures to be respected. What could you tell the schools now who are not doing so?
Yeah, it is the responsibility of schools to respect the barriers measures. I just want to talk to the proprietors and proprietresses out there. If they are not respecting the barriers measures, they should do that. They should even there are local ways of doing it.
Right.
We buy normal buckets, we put the tap on them. There's a normal way of a local way of producing hand sanitizers.
All right.
There's a local way of producing a face mask. They should please do that.
All right. They should,
because as they said, health is wealth.
Health is wealth, and so they should protect not only themselves but the students. Thank you very much, Rachel, for coming.
Thank you, madam.
Hope to have you next time.
Yeah.
It is Mange Venatius. To our televiewers, what should be the take-home message?
Vanessa, simply that this fight against coronavirus should be an individual fight. If we have to look at it we are calling the government, yes, but then it is my health that matters first. It is because there's nobody called the government. Cameroon, we were talking about 340 something cases of death recorded in Cameroon already. Whether we said the government mismanaged or the government did not manage the coronavirus well, whether we said the government managed it so effectively, these people have died. They are gone. That is all about them. There's nothing we can do. So what matters is if we take it as an individual, engagement to make sure that I will not be a vector, or the coronavirus will not pass through me to the next person. I take that, you take that, she takes that. The engagement taken round, you see that we may succeed in stemming the spread of this pandemic.
Mr. Mange Venatius, I'm not cutting you short, please. Yes. Education is not just for the teachers. It is not just for the educational milieu.
Yes.
It is you and I.
That is why I'm saying if we take it, we Cameroonians, if we take it as such, then we would be able to, control the spread. And then parents too, they need to understand that when school started here during the period when examination classes had to write their exams, one of the measures was they had to instruct the children that you don't share a pen or pencil, you don't beg for anything. And another issue was the children were supposed to come and remain in class. There was nothing like break. Correct. Just come and sit, and from there you go home. I think that we parents, we are already failing in our duties because we are no longer producing or providing these children with the necessities that they need. Some of the children, we don't check to find out, is my child going out in the morning with a face mask or not? Is my child going out in the morning with the hand sanitizer or not? Is my child complete? Is the child having a pen, a pencil? Would that child be begging in school? These things put together, you see that we are in one way or the other responsible for this poor or lack of respecting these barrier measures. So if we respect it as parents from our own corners, we think that it will reflect what is happening in schools, and schools would instead complement what we are doing at home. But then if we leave it all for the proprietors, for the school, for the government, there's nobody called government.
All right, thank you very much.
We are the government.
Of course, we are the government. We are the government, madam.
Yeah, Madam Vanessa, before you round off, please, I would like to really appreciate the proprietors and proprietresses out there who helped the teachers during this period of a long stay at home, 7 months. Some were really, really wonderful. They were fabulous. They did not leave the teachers without any salary. Some paid, or like in my school.
All right, thank you very much, Rachel. Anyway, that many teachers like you will actually congratulate the efforts of their employers. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind parents that help the proprietors or help the teachers to help you. We've come to the end of today's edition. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to DBS Television. Tomorrow we'll be right back, God willing. So do take care and stay safe.